So Jan, are you able to unmute and bring on there she is.
Hi,
Hey Jan.
how are ya?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. I appreciate being here.
So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I invite people to also put questions into the comments. But I would like you to just start by introducing yourself and tell us about your PH diagnosis. How and when were you diagnosed? What type of pulmonary hypertension do you have? Please share.
I am Janus. I'm 48, and I was actually diagnosed in 2012. So it's been 8 years. I have familial pulmonary arterial hypertension, so I have hereditary. I am fifth generation. My great-grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, my mom, and myself all have it. Yeah, that's about it on that.
And what were your symptoms like when you were diagnosed, and what medications did they put you on before?
Honestly, I had no symptoms at all whenever I was diagnosed. What happened was a few weeks prior, I was actually in Chicago, and they had the food festival there, Taste of Chicago, and I walked 12 miles. And I came home, and I started having pains in the middle of my chest, and it felt like really tight chest pain, but it was more heartburnish. So they ended up rushing me to the emergency room, and they started doing all these tests and stuff on me. And they're like, "Do you realize that you have pulmonary hypertension?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Well, you do." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And there comes my mom walking in the room, and I said, "She's got pulmonary hypertension. I don't have pulmonary hypertension." And the doctor sort of just looked at me, and he's like, "No, you've got pulmonary hypertension." He goes, "Your echo is showing very, very high pressures, and you need to see a specialist." So I said, "All right, no problem." So I went to UPMC Presby and started to see my mom's doctor because I already had a good rapport with him, and did the right heart cath, and it actually matched my echo to a T. So we talked about the medications and stuff that we were going to go on, and he started me on Adcirca. So after the Adcirca, it was maybe 4 weeks later, I think it was, we went in and did another right heart cath because he also put me on a calcium channel blocker to go and see if I was a good responder for it. And my points went down. So since I was only on the medicine for the PAH for 4 weeks, he's like, "Let's continue to see if your pressures are going to drop." So by the time 2013 came, I was down 22 points from what I originally was. So then we started talking about going and adding another drug, but because I still had no symptoms, I mean, I was still walking, running, hiking, swimming, doing things like that. The only time I got out of breath was whenever I walked up a hill or walked up a set of steps. Otherwise, I was still riding my bike, still, being totally active. That's whenever we decided to go ahead and see about a different path. So 2014, right before our walk, they called me and said, "We have a new trial that's coming out, and it's called the Symphony trial." And I said, "Okay." He said, "And what it is it's basically macetatin or oxamate that will add to your Adcirca, and it's a quality of life trial to go and see how you're going to improve with taking both medications at the same time." So that was a computerized system, sort of. So they gave me a laptop, and every day I would have to go and put in what my daily activity was, how I was feeling, if I was feeling drained, anything to that nature. So I believe it was a 16-week course that we had to go and do for that one. And after going and taking it for only 4 weeks, my 6-minute walk test actually improved from 19 laps to 24 laps. So they were pretty impressed with how that was going and working for me. So continue with the program and everything, and I'm still on both medications. Those are the only two medications that I'm on. And once the trial was over, I was actually able to walk 27 laps. So I'm up to 1,500 feet walking on my 6-minute walk test. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah. And so, what made you want to participate in research? Like, how did they approach you, and what made you decide to go into the clinical study?
Actually, I approached them. My mom, like I said, was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension before I was, and she was one of the first people to do the trial study for Remodulin subcutaneous Remodulin. So being with that and knowing what she was going and doing to help the PH community with getting a drug FDA approved to go and help, because back then there was only 2 drugs available. So I felt that it was my responsibility to go and carry that on. So I got involved with that one. I'm also involved with the FAR Registry. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that one. And I'm also involved with another one at UPMC with Dr. Chan, where every year they go and they take blood out of my arm and they study the DNA and things of that nature. So I'm still in 2 active ones, and then my other one's already ended. So
Fantastic. Fantastic. And so what is it like? What is it like participating in these clinical trials? Does it add a lot of work to your, like, is it burdensome, or how do you balance that? And
it's not really burdensome per se. I would say it's more life experience, because you have to go into the doctor's office every 2 weeks, so that they're able to go and monitor not only your 6-minute walk test, they do another echocardiogram, and depending on what kind of a study it is that you're going and working with, you have to go in maybe weekly. So it all depends on how the study fits for you,
right.
on what you want to go and do. So this one here, like I said, it was more computerized than it was having to go into the doctor's office itself. So it really didn't do anything, and it was only like a 30-minute survey on different things. But then the following week, you would have to go into the doctor's office. They would do all your SATs and stuff to make sure that that was all copacetic and stuff, and make sure you were taking the drug the right way and at the right times. And then you would do your 6-minute walk test, go and do your echocardiogram,
Sure.
come back and see what the results and stuff were. But other than that, it really wasn't any kind of a bother, because you're doing it for the research.
Mm-hmm. And it matters if you can fit it into your life. That's a really important part that you mentioned. Can you mention the FAR Registry? And I know you're active in PHA. Could you tell us a little bit about FAR Registry?
The Spark Registry, what it is doing is it's measuring our distance and stuff, as far as our, like, we get a little watch that we got from FAR. It's sort of like a Fitbit, but it's not a Fitbit. It's a Withings Go watch,
Mhm.
and it monitors your walking capacity and your steps per day on how you're going and doing that. And there's quite a lot of people that's registered within this, that they go and they do a study on it to go and see how many people are actually increasing their functionalities,
Yep. Yep.
basically. So I think that helps a lot too, because it's going and giving them the data that they need to go and see how our medications are going and working, along with the exercise.
Great. One question from the crowd. When you felt side effects, like I guess when you were in the symphony trial, were you afraid for your life? Did you have significant fear from that?
Absolutely not. I really didn't have any side effects. My husband calls me Miss Hypochondriac, because I read what all these side effects were going to be before I started taking them. And then as soon as I started taking the medication, I had every single side effect.
Mhm.
And I'm calling my doctor on the phone and I'm like, look, I've got a heart rate and it's going up to 118 and it's not slowing down. What am I supposed to do? He goes, we chill out, relax. It's normal. It'll be like that for about a week.
Mhm.
You'll be fine.
Mhm.
If it doesn't, then we'll talk about taking you off of it, and don't worry about it. Anytime that you go on a trial, if you're starting to go and have issues with your health, as far as major side effects, they give you the warning on your paperwork that you're going to sign in order to go into the trial. And you also have to meet a certain criteria in order to be able to go into the trials. So if they feel that you're a good candidate for it, then they'll proceed with you. If you're not a good candidate, then you'll be turned away only because your health doesn't permit you to be on them. So my side effects were just in my head, like Hap had said earlier, with like the placebo. How do you know if you're on the placebo, if you're on the right one? Well, it's all mind state. So the only really bad side effect that I had from taking the Opsumit whenever I first started on it was the bronchitis effect. It actually felt like I had bronchitis for 2.5 weeks, and I actually didn't have it at all. So, but right now I have no side effects at all from any of the medications that I'm on.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have any questions? Jan, I can't thank you enough for sharing your experience of, what it was like, not only your PH story, but participating in clinical trials. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for
Fantastic.
having me.
Great.